Like and subscribe right now, or else this will be in your bed tonight. r/ask Reddit by Planet Reddit. Parents of Reddit. What is something your child has done that made you think, I don't approve of that? But damn. That was really clever. My ex-wife decided that my son, 15, is no longer allowed to date this year. Despite the fact that it was never a problem before. This coincided with him starting to date a girl down the street whose parents hate my ex-wife. Though she claims that had nothing to do with it. She claims it is to ensure he gets good grades. Though he has yet to have a problem in that area as a AB student. Instead of sneaking out and around. Or getting mad. He went directly to the girl's father and offered to work for him in his shop. Guy runs a machine shop on his property. Cleaning up. Sweeping floors. Organizing. So he got his first part-time job. Which his mother was okay with. And in turn gets 3 nights a week where he is working where he gets paid to go out with the daughter. It was sneaky and underhanded. And perfectly orchestrated between my son and this guy's daughter, and I am extremely proud of him. Hell. That's just good problem solving. I'd hire him. My brother once paid a neighbor kid, his same age, $5 to mow the lawn for him. When my parents found out, he justified it with they just asked for the lawn to be mowed and didn't specify who was to mow it. Although it was clear it was meant to be him, they just didn't say the exact words. 10 years later the family still has a good laugh at that one. Did your brother get allowance or something for the chore? Yeah. We all got an allowance if we completed a set amount of extra chores around the house besides the normal helping out around the house. Needless to say, he didn't get his that week. This is actually a story about my mom and my uncle that I was told repeatedly as a child, from grandparents and mom and her brothers. My grandmother was a terrible cook, can verify, and often made liver and onions. My mom and my uncle Steve, the 2 oldest siblings out of 4, hated liver and onions and would never eat it. On one such occasion, they were behaving badly and sent to another room with their dinner plates and the ketchup bottle. So they cut up their liver into tiny pieces and shoved it into the ketchup bottle. A week later my grandfather made himself a sandwich and went to put ketchup on it. My grandmother never made liver again. So they cut up their liver into tiny pieces. I spent a few seconds trying to work out when they started performing surgery on themselves. When my kid was 8, we were having some behavioral problems with her, to put it mildly. Went to a therapist who talked to each of us individually and figured out the root of the problems. She was playing us off of each other. Despite being only 8, she had our number and was, unintentionally for the most part, winding her mother and I up over some minor thing. Then watching with glee as we fought over what she wanted us to fight over. The therapist suggested we try an experiment. The next time we caught ourselves being manipulated, we were supposed to lock ourselves in the bedroom and refuse to engage with our little hellion. Her reaction was at once disturbing and enlightening. She tried to bash down the door to the bedroom, starting with the vacuum cleaner. And when that didn't work, she went to the kitchen, got the pizza cutter out of the drawer, and tried to saw her way into our bedroom in order to keep the fight going. Holy moly, that sounds like a horror movie plot. Spoilers. Orphan has this kind of plot. A family adopt an orphan and she does some ducked up things. I thought it was a great horror film. Kid goes to kindergarten. But after a few months parents notice that the kid isn't really getting any better at counting, reading or anything really. Parents ask if they can watch the kid for a day. School hasn't got an issue. Turns out the school puts the kids in 3 groups, red, yellow and blue. Whilst 2 of the groups are doing lessons, the 3rd is always in the sandpit playing with minimal supervision compared to those in lessons. Kid had worked out if at every changeover he went to the bathroom, he could wander in and go straight to the sandpit. No wonder the kid loved school. As far as he was concerned, it was a place he'd been able to play in the sandpit for 2 months. Parents moved the kid to another school. Sort of thought the teachers should have noticed. How do the teachers not notice that? I'd move schools too. That's fantastic. This kid is going places. Heard a ruckus down the hall and came in to see my younger son, 4 at the time, standing over my older one, 6 yo, like that famous Muhammad Ali picture. What's going on? We were boxing. 0-0? Older son had a loose tooth and we were trying to get it out. Older son gets up. Tooth is in the ground. Looks like it worked. High fives all around. Turns out the tooth he knocked out wasn't the loose one they were after, but a different one. Oh well. This is the response that has made me laugh the hardest. If that specific tooth was just a baby tooth, no harm no foul. When my daughter started high school, she immediately started signing her own permission slips so she could wag when she got older and sign her own notes. Thing was, she didn't even take advantage of it for several years, but set up the long con from the start. My mom taught me to forge her signature. At 16, I started picking up my younger sibling and doing all the grocery shopping. I think I maybe used it inappropriately 2 or 3 times. Probably why she trusted me with all that. I was a good kid. Same here. In 6th grade we had to have our parents sign off on a daily homework log. About a month in, she was like, "Duck this." Wrote her name on a paper and had me practice until it was believable. It was very handy. In addition to the daily homework log, I was also able to go on field trips when I forgot to have her sign. For Christmas one year, my then 18-month-old nephew got a set of trucks. His 6-month-old cousin got her hands on one and was playing contentedly. Nephew noticed. Stood over her for a moment and very deliberately dropped a different toy a few inches from niece, who dropped the truck to pick up the new toy. Nephew snatched up the truck and scurried away. Niece realized she'd just lost her toy and gave him a sad look. Nephew hesitated, slowly walked back towards her holding out the truck, and grabbed the new toy out of her hands and ran off with both toys. He's not great at sharing, but the boy does strategize quite well. I thought the story was going to turn out wholesome, but this is even better. Not my kids, but my much younger cousins. Alex is 10 and Charlotte is 13. We were playing Monopoly and I know that Alex is a sneaky duck, so naturally I was the banker. At some point during the game, Alex went to the toilet and on the way back he grabbed the 500s from the bank and accidentally dropped them. He bent down and picked them all up and gave them back to me and started to walk back to his seat. I stopped him and told him to empty his pockets. He pulled his pockets right out and gave me a smug grin. I let him go, because he apparently hadn't taken any. Eventually it was discovered that he had been conspiring with his sister, and when he bent down to pick them up he had passed a few 500s under the table to his sister. He then got past me undetected and they split the money when I wasn't looking. Well, those two are going places. Prison is a place. In 5th grade, my kid's teacher would let the students retake any quiz if they got lower than a certain grade. But she gave the same quiz. My kid was deliberately tanking the first quiz, finding out what the answers were, and scoring 100 on the retake. That is just a real lazy teacher who doesn't want to be responsible for his low performance. My son was a kindergartner last year. He and another kid were playing during indoor recess and got into a disagreement. It escalates, and the other kid rears back to punch my kid. What does mine do? My 5-year-old turns around and moons the other kid. Both were sent to the principal's office. Both were given lunch detention the following Monday. The best part is, the way we heard about this story is the assistant principal paid my husband, a bus driver for the same school, a visit to his bus when he arrived to pick up the kids in the afternoon. Before the kids had been dismissed, he notes her amusement as she's telling the story. And when she's done, she high-fives him. I'm fairly sure the whole staff had already heard about it. While my kid should not have shown his ass to another kid, I am to this day proud of how he managed to defuse the situation. He and the kid actually became really good friends after that. Earlier today I picked up my 2.5-year-old son from daycare. When I arrived he was playing peacefully in a small cupboard with the doors open. One of the bigger girls came over and bullied him out because she wanted to hide in there. He said no, but she pulled him out. I rushed right over as she closed herself in the cupboard to make sure he was okay. All he said was "stinky bum mummy." And right on cue the girl burst open the doors yelling "you." My son had farted on the way out of the cupboard and she dived right into it and closed the doors. I doubt he planned it being only 2.5, but I hope he did, because that is a fantastic way to get revenge on a bully. Damn kid already understands the scorched earth strategy. This made me laugh way more than it should have. Malicious compliance and finding every loophole to a rule, and now he's a lawyer. Book report? He'll do it on a first grade book in 6th grade and analyze the living shit out of it. Can only get up to sharpen pencils? He saved his pencils from every other class to sharpen like 10 pencils a day in her class and take the most circuitous route to the sharpener. New rule: you have to walk straight to the sharpener and back. Didn't say you couldn't walk at 1/2 mph and sharpen in slow-mo. He has a future in IT. As a programmer. Can confirm. Typical traits of good programmers. When my son was in preschool, age 4, he was very good at putting things together. The classroom he was in had a marble game that the kids loved to play, but it was very hard to put together before you could play. Most kids would spend the entire playtime putting it together. My son could do it in about 2 minutes. His teacher told us during the parent night that she caught him putting it together for kids in exchange for their cookies. etc. at snack time. Not a bad little hustle. My son loves reading. He's always really sneaky about reading after lights out, and although I have to foil his plans and tell him to go to bed, part of me is proud of him for liking reading that much. I was never caught reading like this. But one of my friends was multiple times, and her parents just kept taking away the book she was reading and never giving it back so she would never know the ending. Damn. That's cruel. I keep my 3-year-old's Halloween candy on a very high coat hook in the entryway. The highest of hooks. Usually underneath her raincoat. It rained the other day, and she got a glimpse of that candy bag. While I stepped outside for mere moments. She got out the stepladder to reach it. But the ladder wasn't high enough. So she got her potty stool, put it onto the bench adjacent to the hook, and reached her candy goal. When I found her, she was casually eating Skittles and watching Sesame Street. She then offered me some Skittles. I was so impressed. I couldn't be mad at her. When I found her, she was casually eating Skittles and watching Sesame Street. She then offered me some Skittles. Perfect. I did raise her to be polite. After all. I hated taking piano lessons as a kid. Our piano was in a room you couldn't see well from the kitchen or the family room, where our family spent most of our time. I was supposed to practice 30 minutes a day, but I had a tape of me playing the songs I was practicing that I would play, but would sit at the piano and read a book. Wasn't busted for weeks. So how'd it go over when your plan was foiled? OP got castrated while being forced to play the Moonlight Sonata 3rd movement. I told my 7-year-old she could pick out some candy at the gas station. She came up with 2 small Kit Kat bars and I said no. You can have one. I watched her go put those back and grab the king-sized one instead. Well played, kid. This actually just happened last night. My 6-year-old daughter had YouTube taken off her tablet after I caught her watching a live at home birth. She is allowed 1 hour a night on her tablet. She came into my bedroom around 3 am. Huh? Mom. How do you spell Taylor Swift me? Why are you out of bed and what are you doing? Huh? I couldn't sleep. So I pushed the kitchen chair up to the fridge and grabbed my tablet. I downloaded YouTube back on again and I wanted to watch a music video. I wanted to be angry, but this took a lot of follow through at 3 am. YouTube for Kids app. My cousin was a bit of a wild child. His mother, who was a widow, was a bit of an iron lady. It was the immovable object and irresistible force kind of conflict. This was back in the day before cell phones, when you had multiple phones in the house but only one line. He would be out, and around the time of his curfew he would call home. When his mother would answer, he would say, "I got it, Mom," like he was home, and just pick the phone before she did. She would then hang up and go to sleep and he would stay out all night. Pretty effing clever and ballsy. He died a couple years ago and we were swapping stories at his funeral. That one came up and his mother was floored. She had no idea. She is not the kind of lady who is easily duped. It made her laugh, which was good. My older 2 were playing on the trampoline with the kids from next door. I was playing nearby with my youngest son and was keeping an eye on the kids. Neighbor boy does a trick and now everyone else has to do the trick. My oldest said he didn't want to do it because he didn't want to get hurt. My middle son, 6 years old, says, "Stop acting like a girl. Neighbor girl took offense and told my son not to say that. My son sighs and says, "Fine. Stop acting like a beach then, Gavin." No idea where he pulled that one from. He's my only kid that appears to have a potty mouth and we don't even curse in the house. I thought it was pretty funny, but had to correct him while trying not to laugh. Correct context. So he's got that going for him. Your son has a good grasp of the language. First, some context. We are a reading household. I would say that reading is my number one leisure activity. I read about 50 books a year. And my husband isn't far behind. There does not exist a single room in my house that doesn't have books in it. My living room is packed with 6 floor-to-ceiling bookcases. All double deep. Even our stairway is lined with books. My son is 7. Last year he was in 1st grade. And much to our dismay, he couldn't really read. Even though he was getting excellent marks in everything else in school. He seemed to be well behind other kids of his age in this one area. And as a result they put him in a special pull-out reading group. Every day, he would go with one of his best friends to a small separate classroom with the reading teacher so she could help him learn to read. After a full school year of this, his teachers reported little to no progress. We weren't really 100% sold on the whole smart kid can't read thing in the first place. But we were starting to become more and more suspicious about it. We decide to run a test. We leave books around strategically. Ask him to read words here or there. And watch him as he plays video games and looks up YouTube videos. Kid can read. We are sure of it. And we become increasingly sure he can read really well. So, we are on vacation over the summer with extended family. Sister is studying for her economics class and chatting with him about it. My non-reading son picks up a college level economics textbook. Opens to the middle and reads off the first page he sees, flawlessly. As it turns out, my son, 6 years old at the time, spent an entire year pretending he couldn't read to everyone because, as he said, he didn't like doing the activity the rest of the class did while he went to reading class because it was boring and he got to go hang out with his friend and they gave them candy. My son is an evil genius. I actually have a lot of stories like this about him. But this one is by far the biggest con he has ever pulled off. When I was little we had a similar problem. I could read much faster than anyone else. Sometimes. So they thought I was faking it, etc. Being bad. Or stubborn. Turns out, because I was dyslexic. I learned to read by memorizing word shapes. And if they changed the font I couldn't read it. My teachers throughout elementary school were concerned with my reading. Grades 2 and 4 thought I was illiterate because I would never read aloud in class. And grades 1, 3, and 5 I got in trouble for reading ahead of the class and always having to ask where the rest of the class had left off when it was my turn to read. Elementary school age books were apparently boring as hell. My father tells these stories pretty frequently about me. I was a computer geek in high school. Loved pirating games, music, playing computer games, hosting servers, etc. My father was tired of me using all of the house's bandwidth, so he set up some throttling stuff on the router or black holed some ports that I needed to use. So, I would turn on a man in the middle attack and kill the internet modem and ask him to log into the router to troubleshoot. He would log in and then I would get his password to reset all the settings I wanted. Another one, but not nearly as cool. My father installed a porn filter on all computers in the house, Cyber Nanny Ike, that would filter internet based off of our English text dictionary. So, if you just Google boobs or something, the filter would block the page. So once finding out how the software worked, I learned Spanish to get around the filter. You learned another language just to get porn? That's pretty impressive if you ask me. He probably just learned the porn words. Vergus negras gigants. Not a parent, but definitely helped raise my sisters since my mother and father both worked. I was 16 at the time and my sister was 10. And my other sister was 12. I was really sick and neither of my sister could use the stove. I told him they can have food only if it's microwavable or I'll make them whatever they want. I was so sick I was bedridden and wanted to watch movies but didn't have a TV in my room. I fell all asleep and when I woke up I was in the living room with ramen noodles on the table and I had my sister under the blankets warming me up. My youngest sister said you were shaking so badly so we both carried you down here and we made you soup. Eat up so you be strong. I cried and then realized we live in a 2-story house. How the hell did they get me downstairs? I am a 5'2" girl and I weigh 90 pounds now. I have always been small. But I couldn't have been carried by them, right? Anyways, they also were not allowed to watch TV past 5:30 PM but I'll let them that time. I love my sisters. 59 PM. That's pretty late though. I meant 5:30 PM. I'm sorry. At my kids' school, they have a process to recognize achievements that the children make outside of school. So, the kid does something good, maybe gets a ballet certificate, or wins a trophy in a sporting club, and they take evidence of this to the head of the junior school. The head listens to their story, gives them big kudos, and the achievement is written up on a board with all the others. My daughter is clearly thinking it's been too long since she's been able to get this kind of attention. So she looks around herself to see what she can turn into an achievement. She finds a #1 dancer medal given to her at her recent birthday party. She is a terrible dancer. Nevertheless, she takes the medal to the head, who does the whole congratulations routine and writes up the achievement on the board. She tells us none of this. One day, I'm walking past the board. I usually give it a quick scan to see if there's anything interesting on it. Well, unexpectedly seeing my child's name along with awarded #1 dancer medal certainly fell into that category. I had a word with her about it. I told her that I was very proud of her for her problem solving, but that if she did it again, I would make her go to the head and explain the ruse. TLDR. Daughter wants praise from school headmistress. Makes up achievement story relating to meaningless medal. Is successful. Gets busted by inquisitive father. My 3-year-old wanted to take a bath the other day, but my wife told him no. It's not bath time. So he asks for juice and my wife gets him juice. When she comes back he has rubbed mud in our 1-year-old's hair. Just covered. So guess what? It's bath time now. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for 3 videos a day.